Right. I think it's because obviously we live in this kind of cancel culture.
You all know who this is. Fifth place swimmer Riley Gaines, who has made a career for herself pandering to the right, enriching herself through transphobia, and sucking up to none other than Donald John Trump. Speaking of cancel culture,
I was actually at ESPN when I heard about Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the then former press secretary, saying in a White House press briefing that what I said about the president was a fireable offense. So I was putting together, me and my co-host, we were putting together our nightly edition of SportsCenter, and friends of mine who are political reporters who were actually in the room at the time, they started texting me and saying, hey, the White House press secretary just called you out and just said you should be fired. And I was just really flabbergasted because, you just never expect something to rise to the level of it being considered to be something to be brought up in front of a White House press briefing. You would think that they would have more concerning things or, more important things to respond to. But, as they say, a hit dog will holler.
Gaines hates those who engage in it, yet the folks she has sucked up to did just that with former ESPN anchor Jemele Hill.
Absolutely not. This is taking us back to the 1970s to before Title IX. And that's what I think is the left is not understanding. They think this is progressive. They think we're moving in the forward direction. But this is taking us back half a century. It's regressive. It's not moving anything forward. It's taking us backwards.
This is rather rich that Gaines, seen here, vows to fight for women's rights, yet the very people they support are trying to take us back to the times she claims to despise.
As many of you all know, I've had my own personal history with Donald Trump. Back in 2017, I tweeted that the president is a white supremacist. These are words I still stand on, words I think that have been proven ever since then, and were proven before I said it. And that tweet, of course, changed my career. In many ways, it changed how people perceive me. It changed a lot of things. And the president, in response, he said I should be fired. He blamed me for ESPN's ratings being not healthy. I take the re-election of Donald Trump quite personally because of the person themselves, but also as a Black woman. And that is because I think for a lot of Black women, we can relate to Kamala Harris just in the sense of some of us have been in that position before where we felt qualified, if not overqualified in many respects. And for a lot of Black women, even though we should not internalize it this way, it felt like a particular rejection of some of the things that we've been fighting for, or it felt like a particular rejection of sort of our place and how we're seen in this society. And I don't think it's by any accident that both of Trump's presidential victories have been against women. It does make you wonder at what point, I hate to use the word ready, but at what point will America be ready for a woman to be in that role?
Now, Hill is not one to back down, nor is she one to bite her tongue, rightfully so. Gaines, meanwhile,
I think it's astounding that you have progressive and liberals who have said for so long, why won't anyone watch the WNBA? Okay, now Caitlin Clark emerges and people start watching the WNBA and they say, well, she's just pretty tall and white. That's what this is. It's astounding. Caitlin Clark has not gotten the coverage and the attention that she has rightfully gotten because she is white, tall, or pretty. It's because she's a phenom.
Will this take age quite poorly, didn't it? But that's par for the course from Gaines. After all, it was from Clark herself admitting that, yeah, she's earned everything, but admittedly so, stating simultaneously she does benefit from white privilege. Like Gaines, Megyn Kelly shared a terrible take, and Hill let him have it.
And she knows, like a lot of white players in the WNBA know, and they've said it, Kelsey Plum, Breanna Stewart, is that they get elevated, they get marketed, they get pushed in a way that Black women in that league who have accomplished similar things do not get the same endorsement opportunities, the same marketing. The marketing riddle of the WNBA prior to this moment has been, how do you market a league that is 70% Black, where a third of the players identify as queer? How do you do that? And that it has been a lot of marketing mistakes the WNBA has made in trying to sort of minimize that part of their identity. Or, a lot of people have certainly for years speculated that they push certain players because they're trying to kind of galvanize and interest white America with players they believe that they will get behind. So this has been a long-standing conversation in the WNBA. And Caitlin Clark, in her sense of leadership, she just stated the obvious. And now she has some very predictable people angry at her because they never were fans of hers. They just like the idea of weaponizing her success against other Black women who they can't stand.
Exactly. And count Gaines in that category as well. After Clark made her, "Yes, I benefit from white privilege" comments to Maria Taylor, Gaines would angrily tweet, "No one was asking for Caitlin Clark to position herself as a right-wing hero. All she needed to do was remain neutral. She's a phenom who inspires countless young girls to play and achieve. So I still have great admiration for her, but she missed the mark on this one." Hill would see it and reply, "You holler all the time about supporting and protecting women, and yet the moment that Caitlin Clark expresses appreciation and respect for the Black women in the WNBA, many of whom she grew up watching and idolizing, like Maya Moore, suddenly you, Riley Gaines, are acting like a disappointed parent. Chile, you could not tell on yourself any louder." True, to which Gaines dug her own grave. This you saying Caitlin Clark's race and sexuality make her problematic. Clark isn't the problem, she's the solution, yay. Being a long-standing professional race baiter must be so, in caps, exhausting. The race baiter thing is quite a tell on the right. Thus, Hill didn't pull any punches. Girl, you need to thank Leah Thomas every day of your life for helping you get famous. Otherwise, you would have been just a decent college swimmer that no one knew. You wrote the book on grifting, not me. I noticed you didn't post the original LA Times piece my comments appeared in that provided the entire context of my remarks. Instead, you posted an opinion piece that intentionally misrepresented what I said. In the same article, I called her a generational talent and the female Stephen Curry. If you struggle with reading and comprehension, just say that.
I think Jemele Hill is stating the obvious here. And before we get into it, I have a new channel that's coming out. Please go subscribe to it and support me over there. It's called The Rick Strom Show. I'm going to be talking to a ton of people that I find to have very interesting stories, so go sub. Jemele Hill is preaching, okay? And I think it's quite a tell when someone, a Caucasian person, says, I think I've deserved everything good that's come my way and the success that I've had through my own hard work, but simultaneously, there is a degree of white privilege that needs to be acknowledged. And in turn, this is the W that we're talking about. It was built off the backs of Black women. That is not a controversial statement. That is a fair statement. And it's quite telling, with nothing more that could be described as accurate in that statement, when folks really get upset at it. They really get upset at it. So when Riley Gaines is looking real peeved online and hating the fact that Caitlin Clark spoke up for minorities, girl, you are telling on yourself. You are. How long will we allow stupidity to go unfettered? I know Fox News was built off of it because they placated to the fears of deeply insecure people, bigoted people, and decided to say, you know what, there's a cash grab here. I get it. I understand it. But when do we just have this coming down to earth moment and understanding that these people are quite illogical? And with that comes a degree or lack thereof in understanding how the country was built, how we got to this point, who has been taken advantage of. Are we okay with that? Are we accepting of that? Well, to Riley Gaines, she wants to stay neutral. Neutral in the face of the oppressor is choosing the oppressor. I'm sure a lot of this flew over her head, but you get my point.